You grew your first tomato. Your peppers, you nailed it. Your lettuce didn't bolt and your onions actually sized up. So now what? Most beginners hit this exact moment and freeze. Do you grow the same 5 things again, or do you push into something new? Here's the truth. There are 8 vegetables that are practically begging to be your next win, and picking the right ones now sets you up to eat something fresh out of your garden almost every month of the year. I'll show you 8 super easy vegetables to grow next, why each one works for beginners, and simple tricks that boost your chances of success. No jargon, no fuss, just real advice you can use this weekend to plant something that actually feeds you. Let's go. If you're new here, welcome to Green Harvest Hub, where we make growing your own food feel simple instead of overwhelming. Hope everyone is having a great vacation. And now if you've been with us since the tomato video, welcome back. You've already proven something important. You already have the basic knowledge, your confidence has grown towards growing your own plants now. You can keep a plant alive, you can read a seed packet, and you can handle a little trial and error. That's the entire skill set you need for what's coming next. The 8 plants we'll cover are chosen to build on that. They're forgiving, fast, and teach useful habits like spacing, succession sowing, and watering. By the end, you'll know what to pick for your season and space. Before we jump in, if you find this helpful, tap like and subscribe now so you don't miss future step-by-step videos. If you're planning a small balcony or backyard garden, drop a comment with your sun exposure and I'll suggest the best picks. We're building a full garden together, one video at a time, and you'll want the next one when it drops, trust me. Let's start underground, with 2 root vegetables that teach you something tomatoes never could. Patience with what you can't see. First up, carrots. Carrots are a great next step because they push you to think about your soil, not just your watering can. They're moderate in difficulty, mostly because they need loose, rock-free soil to grow straight instead of forked and stubby. Carrots love cool weather, and they want a solid 6 hours of sun a day. You can grow them in deep containers, raised beds, or straight into the ground, as long as the soil goes down at least 12 inches without anything blocking the roots. Expect to wait around 70 to 80 days before you're pulling them up. The most common beginner mistake is planting carrots in heavy, compacted, or rocky soil and wondering why every root comes out twisted. The fix is simple. Loosen your soil deeply before you sow, or use a light, sandy potting mix if you're in a container. So for carrots, harvest time is 8 to 12 weeks for most varieties. Beginner mistake for is planting in heavy, rocky soil. Carrots don't like that, and simple tip. Loosen soil to at least 12 inches and use a mix of compost and sand for a fine seed bed. Now, radishes. If carrots teach patience, radishes teach the opposite. They might be the fastest vegetable you'll ever grow, ready in as little as 3 to 4 weeks. That speed makes them one of the best confidence builders in this entire list. They're easy, they love cool weather, and they're happy with around 6 hours of sun, though they'll tolerate a bit of shade. Containers, raised beds, straight into the ground. Radishes don't care. The biggest mistake new gardeners make is planting the seeds too close together and never thinning them out, which leaves you with tiny, crowded roots. Thin your seedlings early, keep the soil evenly moist, and you'll get crisp, mild radishes instead of the spicy, pithy kind. Radishes are the immediate confidence boosters. Difficulty, very easy. Cool season lovers, full sun to light shade, perfect for containers and the edges of beds. Harvest in as little as 3 to 4 weeks. Beginner mistake, sowing seeds too thickly. Simple tip, sow thinly and pull every other seedling early to give room. You'll get quick success and free space for slower crops. Now, let's move above ground and into warm season territory, starting with green beans. Green beans are a fantastic next step because they finally give you a vegetable that just keeps producing week after week, once it gets going. Choose a bush variety if you're a beginner, since it skips the need for staking or trellising. They're easy to grow, they want warm weather, and they need 6 to 8 hours of full sun. Bush beans do well in containers, raised beds, or directly in the ground. You're usually harvesting within 50 to 60 days. The number one mistake beginners make is planting too early before the soil has properly warmed up, which leads to poor germination and weak seedlings. Wait until your soil holds steady warmth, then sow directly where you want them to grow. Cucumbers are next level when it comes to rewarding, and they bring a new challenge into the mix: vertical growing. They're warm season. They want 6 to 8 hours of sun, and they're moderate in difficulty mainly because they're thirsty and benefit from a trellis, even a small one, to keep the fruit clean and the plant healthy. Containers work well if you give them something to climb, and raised beds or in-ground beds work even better. You'll typically wait 50 to 70 days for your first cucumber. The classic mistake here is letting the soil dry out and then flooding it, which often leads to bitter-tasting fruit. Keep the moisture consistent, add a layer of mulch, and your cucumbers will reward you with a much better flavor. Here's the beginner mistake for cucumbers: letting vines sprawl and hide fruit, which leads to missed harvests and soft fruit. Simple tip: train vines up a trellis and check daily for pickable cukes. Let's circle back to something that loves cool season and fast, because spinach might be the single best vegetable to grow right after lettuce. It's easy, it grows quickly, and it gives you that same rewarding, cut-and-come-again harvest you already know how to handle. Spinach is happy with 4 to 6 hours of sun and actually appreciates a little afternoon shade in warmer regions. It grows beautifully in containers, raised beds, or straight into the ground. Baby leaves are ready in as little as 25 to 30 days, with full-size leaves closer to 40 or 50. The mistake almost every beginner makes is planting spinach once the weather turns warm, which sends it straight into bolting, that same stalk and seed response we talked about with lettuce. The tip is easy. Plant spinach in early spring or fall, and if you want to push into summer, look for heat-tolerant spinach varieties bred specifically to resist bolting. Quick question before we keep going. Out of everything so far, which one are you most excited to try? Drop it in the comments right now. I actually read them, and it helps me know what to cover next. Alright, let's keep building your garden. This next pair asks a little more of you, and that's exactly why they belong here. Cabbage first. Growing cabbage is a great next step because it teaches you patience over a longer season, and it introduces you to pest management in a low-stakes way. It's moderate in difficulty, mostly because of cabbage worms, small caterpillars that love to chew through the leaves. Cabbage wants cool weather and around 6 hours of sun, and it does best in the ground or in large raised beds and containers, since the roots and head both need room to develop. You're looking at 70 to 100 days before harvest, so this one takes commitment. The biggest mistake is ignoring pest damage until it's out of control. Check under the leaves regularly, and consider a lightweight row cover to keep the moths away before they lay eggs. Then there's beets, which might be the best value vegetable on this entire list because you get 2 harvests from one plant, the root and the leafy greens on top. Beets are easy to moderate, they love cool weather, and they want about 6 hours of sun. They grow well in containers with decent depth, raised beds, or straight into the ground. Expect 50 to 60 days to harvest. Here's something most beginners don't know. Each beet seed is actually a small cluster of seeds, so you'll almost always get multiple seedlings sprouting from what looks like one spot. The common mistake is never thinning them out, which leaves you with a tangle of small, stunted roots. Thin your seedlings to a few inches apart, and don't forget you can harvest the greens along the way, just like you would with spinach. So beginner mistake for beet is planting too close and not thinning. Simple tip: thin seedlings to the spacing on the packet and use the thinned greens. Last on our list, and honestly one of the most satisfying additions you can make, herbs. Basil, parsley, cilantro, and mint are all fantastic next steps because you'll actually use them in your kitchen almost every single day. Basil and mint prefer warm weather and full sun, while parsley and cilantro lean cool season and appreciate a bit of shade, especially cilantro, which bolts fast the moment it gets hot. All 4 do wonderfully in containers, which honestly might be the best place for them regardless of how much garden space you have. You'll get your first real harvest in about 3 to 4 weeks, and after that, it's a steady, ongoing supply. Here's an important tip that saves a lot of regret. Never plant mint directly in the ground. It spreads aggressively through underground runners and will take over an entire bed within a season. Keep it in its own container, even if you sink that container into the ground, so the roots stay contained. Now, let's connect all of this into an actual plan. First, know your seasons. Cool season vegetables like carrots, radishes, spinach, cabbage, and beets grow best in the milder temperatures of spring and fall, and most of them will bolt or struggle once summer heat sets in. Warm-season vegetables like green beans, cucumbers, and basil need warm soil and warm air to really take off, and they won't tolerate frost at all. Knowing which category a vegetable falls into tells you almost everything about when to plant it. Second, lean into fast growers early on. Radishes, spinach, and herbs give you a harvest in weeks instead of months, and that fast feedback is what builds real gardening confidence. Save the longer commitments, like cabbage, for once you're feeling steady. Third, don't overcrowd. It's tempting to cram in as many seeds as possible, but overcrowded plants compete for light, water, and nutrients, and you'll end up with weaker harvests across the board. Always check the spacing on your seed packet and actually follow it. Fourth, think about crop rotation, even in a small space. Avoid planting the same vegetable or its close relatives in the exact same spot year after year. This simple habit keeps soil-borne pests and diseases from building up and keeps your soil healthier over time. Fifth, know when to direct sow versus transplant. Root vegetables like carrots, radishes, and beets should always be sown directly where they'll grow because their roots don't like being disturbed. Vegetables like cabbage and cucumbers can be started indoors or bought as small seedlings and transplanted, which gives you a head start on the season. Finally, water consistently rather than heavily and infrequently, and space your plants according to what the packet recommends rather than guessing. And if you want a garden that feeds you for months instead of all at once, stagger your planting. Sow a few radishes every couple of weeks instead of the whole packet in one day, and mix your cool season and warm season crops, so something is always coming in. Here's something worth sitting with. Every single vegetable on this list has been grown by home gardeners for well over 100 years, some for thousands. Beets were prized by ancient Romans. Cabbage fed entire European villages through hard winters long before refrigeration existed. You're not just filling a garden bed. You're taking part in something people have been doing generation after generation since long before either of us were born. That's worth feeling proud of. Let's bring it all together. Carrots and radishes get you comfortable working with soil and root crops. Green beans and cucumbers move you into warm season growing and vertical space. Spinach gives you another fast, rewarding win. Cabbage and beets stretch your patience and teach real garden planning. And herbs bring your garden straight into your kitchen. Pick one or two to start based on your season and how much time you've got and build from there. If this helped you figure out your next move, subscribe to Green Harvest Hub so you don't miss what's coming next, and let me know in the comments which of these 8 you're planting first. Let's keep growing together.